Okay, you ready?
Yep.
And I just always ask God to be with us in our interview, that He would direct our words and everything, so that whoever's listening out there would also be spurred on to do what they're supposed to be doing with their life, for God, for His kingdom purposes. Yep. So that's kind of what the show is all about.
Yep. Cool.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Shaped by Faith. My guest today is Jason Koger. He is a father of daughters Billy Grace, is that right, and Campbell. And he is a son who is adorable. I've seen him in my fitness classes before, Axel. His wife Jenny is actually one of my faithful fitness participants at Owensboro Christian Church. And I will say she's absolutely beautiful. And you can see her pictures on shapedbyfaith.com. Jason was the first bilateral amputee to receive 2 bionic hands. Is that right, Jason?
That's exactly right.
Jason, we're just going to get right into it. And we're going to talk about, actually I'm going to just open it up to you. March 1st, 2008. It changed your life as you knew it. And as I understand it, you were electrocuted on your farm during an ATV ride. So I just want to ask if you would share some about that.
Yeah, so March 1st, 2008, I went on a four-wheeler ride. It was actually my grandfather's farm right behind my house. And on that ride, I came in contact with a down power line. So I took 7,200 volts of electricity, which resulted in, a lot of people think that it amputated me right there on the spot, but it didn't. What it does is when you get electrocuted, it burns you from the inside out. Causes poisonous toxins in your body. The poisonous toxins have to be released somewhere, so they go through your kidneys and out your urine, basically. So I didn't think I was hurt that bad. And my cousin, he was behind the house, his house. He seen it all. He came down. 911 was called. And from then, he didn't know if I would really live or not, and I don't know what made him think that. So he was scared to call Jenny, and he knew Jenny was home. So he actually called my mother in town. My mother called Jenny. Jenny came back to the accident, and I was awake, and I remember telling Jenny that everything was going to be okay. It did come out my thumb, so it basically blew my thumb off. And I told her, I said, I'm going to lose my thumb, but, that's not that big of a deal. I was pretty calm. She rode an ambulance with me to Owensboro, and from Owensboro, that's whenever we realized that it was a lot worse than what we expected. Still didn't know how bad. They had Life Flight come pick me up and take me to Vanderbilt Hospital, and then leaving, when I left, I kept on asking, why are we going to Vanderbilt? I have no idea what's going on. Everybody just, everything's going to be all right, everything's going to be all right, but nobody would ever say anything. So I get on a helicopter completely, and I don't know if this is the right term or not, because I don't want anybody to think that I was not sober when the accident happened, but I was completely sober in that helicopter ride, meaning I had no pain medicine. Nothing was in my body, and I didn't understand, because I was really starting to hurt, and I had no idea why they didn't give me some kind of something to relieve the pain. Right. And what I found out is my kidneys were shutting down because of all the poisonous toxins. They actually said that my urine looked like Dr. Pepper, so it was that much stuff going through, and they did not want to slow my body down from fighting for itself, because that's what it was doing. I was fighting for my life. So that's kind of the gist of what happened.
That's a big deal.
It is.
It's a big deal. Oh yeah, and that happened. No, I totally understand. God has wired you with a strong constitution. Obviously He has. And with this holy tenacity that you're a fighter. Regardless, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. That probably calmed you down and calmed Jenny down and people around you. Were you not experiencing pain at first, Jason?
No, and I don't know what shock is. I don't know if I was in shock. That's why I wasn't hurting, but I remember everything. When I first got electrocuted, I knew I was getting electrocuted, but I was actually out for a few minutes anyway, or for a few seconds. It actually stopped my heart for 30 seconds.
Wow.
So obviously when your heart stops, you're not awake. So I don't remember getting electrocuted on the four-wheeler. When I woke up, I was laying on the ground. So I was out at least 30 seconds. But
so your heart stopped and then it just started again?
Yep.
By itself?
Yeah, whether it was hitting the ground hard enough that it started up, or sometimes they say when you get electrocuted like that it's better that your heart does stop, because if your heart goes into, say, a flutter, that your brain doesn't know that your heart's not working the exact way it's supposed to be, and then you run out of oxygen and you'll pass away, So they said it was actually a blessing that my heart did stop.
Yes.
And then it started right back up, normal, and I don't know, it was just, once I got to Vanderbilt, and obviously when the helicopter came, I was hurting. But once I got to Vanderbilt, they rushed me into the OR. And, actually, I'll take it back. They put me into hydro, is what it's called. And that's where they actually take a pressure washer and they wash your dead skin off your body.
Wow.
Because my whole right arm was third-degree burns. So they actually washed the skin off of me, which is a very painful procedure.
Did they give you anything for that?
No.
Oh,
But,
goodness.
it's weird how the medical stuff happens. So I was completely sober for that as well.
I like that.
And while I was getting that done, a nurse told me that I kept on asking questions, and she acted like, because I don't remember it. The reason I don't remember, the reason they didn't give me medicine then is they were waiting for my family to get there to sign release forms.
Right.
As soon as the family got there and Jenny signed the forms, then they gave me a drug that made me forget so far before. So even though I was completely sober, and it's amazing to me, even though I was completely sober for the hydro room, I don't remember any of it. Luckily.
Now, they put you in a coma for 3 days, right?
I was put in a induced coma for 3 days.
Now, the doctors had to ask Jenny's permission to cut off both your hands.
Yep.
And I'm sure you guys have discussed this, and I've watched the videos of her talking about this. I mean, what was going on in her mind? I mean, a doctor comes out and says, in order to save his life, this has got to happen.
Yeah. So, the doctor came down, talked to Jenny, and basically told her, in order to save his life, there's two things we might have to do, and I have to have permission to do both. First is a blood transfusion. Second is amputation of whatever I need to amputate. I have to find where the infection is, and I have to amputate, whether it's one arm, two legs, whatever it is. So, Jenny, right off the bat, she didn't think about it, because I think her first, from what she told me, the first thing that she thought was, Jason not here or Jason here. That's that. I mean, that was the question. Do you want him to live? Do you want him to die?
It's a no-brainer for her, right?
Yeah. So she obviously signed the papers, and he told her, I don't have time to really sit and tell you everything. Like, we got to go. And I immediately went to the OR, and that's where they amputated. I was in a surgery for 6, 7, 8 hours, that first night, and when you talk about your faith, I mean, I've always gone to church my whole life. I was born and raised in a Catholic church, and Jenny was born and raised going to church as well, and we always believed. I've never. It blows my mind when you meet people that really don't believe. So it wasn't that big of a deal to believe in that everything was going to be okay. And when the doctor came out of the hospital, or out of the OR, and he came down to actually tell Jenny what they had to do, I'll never forget the story. Jenny said that Dr. Jeffrey Guy is his name. He came down, and he got in the waiting room, and he walked right towards Jenny. And as soon as he got to Jenny and my mom and my dad and my sister, he said that a swarm of people, overtook the whole entire waiting room. And he kind of just looked around for a minute, because he knew that I was 2 hours from Nashville. And he knew that it was, 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, or whatever time it was. There was probably 100 people in the waiting room from Owensboro of
Wow.
people, that family and friends, whatever, that were there to support me and support my family. And Dr. Guy looked at Jenny and said, you know, is this everybody's for you? And she said, yes. And, you know, he started crying. He was like, you know, there's times I come down here and there's nobody waiting on a family member. And he said, y'all have a special, you know, I'm working on a special person, you know, and I think he knew that. So, and it's also amazing that Dr. Guy was in church when he got my phone call, when he got that text. So, you know, it all works out.
God works all things out. We're going to take a break here, and we're going to continue our conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. My guest is Jason Koger. He's an amazing person, and he's a strong person, and his wife Jenny's in my fitness classes, and I love her. She is beautiful. They have 2 beautiful daughters, Billy Grace and Campbell, and a son, Axel. And we were talking to Jason. He was the first bilateral amputee to receive 2 bionic hands. And so Jason was explaining in the first segment like what happened, you know, during the accident on his, was it your grandfather's farm?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was talking about that. So now you're in the hospital, Jason. You're at Vanderbilt University, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're waking up, obviously. You've been in a coma, you're waking up. When did you find out you had both hands taken off, and who told you?
So when I woke up 3 days after my accident, I was kind of strapped to a bed. So I had no idea that I'd lost anything, to be honest with you. You know, I can still feel my hands still today, so I didn't know. But I remember waking up, and there was a nurse beside me. I had a nurse that sat by me 24 hours a day, 7 days, or, you know, for the 3 days, I guess. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I remember leaning over and telling her that I wanted to see my dad. You know, well, both my parents. My dad was a drill sergeant in the Army, so, you know, he's always been one of those never give up, you know, and we weren't even allowed to say that. That was a cuss word, you know, never give up. So, or I can't was a cuss word, you know.
You got it honest.
Yeah. So I asked for my parents to come in, and so my dad and my mom came in the room, and my dad sat down with me, and basically, you know, he didn't come right out and say anything at first, and he started talking about, you know, everything happens for a reason, and you know, I don't know how we're going to, you know, succeed or get through this. I just know that God's going to, you know, provide for us, and that's all we really got to think about. And, you know, we'll figure it out. One way or another, we're going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there thinking, well, what's he talking about, you know? And then he said, you know, Jason, and I'm sure as me being a parent now, it's got to be tremendously hard to tell a child, you know, your child what you're about to tell them. And so anyway, he told me that they had to amputate both arms in order to save my life. And I asked him because I remember him telling me that, but I don't remember, like, you know, how I reacted. And, you know, he told me that, you know, one tear come down the side of my face, and I just, you know, just kind of sat there like I was thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I remember is that I woke up and I thought, you know, I mean, it is what it is, and we'll get through it. And you know, the doctor kept on telling my family, like, he's going to go through a depression. Like, he lost something, you know, huge, and he's going to go through a depression. And I think I kept on telling myself, that ain't going to happen to me. I'm not going to do that. And I'm sure in the back of my mind, I was thinking about my kids and Jenny, and you know, Jenny doesn't deserve you know, me to have a pity party for myself, and, you know, my kids don't deserve it either. So I remember thinking that. But Dr. Guy, he was my surgeon. He's, you know, one of my best friends now. I mean, I think the world of him. Talk to him all the time still. He was the only doctor that I had. He believed in being, when you had a patient, that was your patient. You don't have 15 other doctors coming in. You have, that. It was him, and that was the only one I ever seen. So he came in my room one day and he said, Jason, I'm going to help you get through this. But he said, I need you to think of one goal that you want to meet before you leave the hospital. And he said, you're going to be here for several months, and I want to help you succeed in one thing to show you that life's going to get back to normal. So he said, I'll let you think about it for a little bit. And he turned around, he went to walk out the room, and I said, "Hey, Dr. Guy," and he said, "Yeah," and I said, "I already know what I want." He said, "Well, how do you already know what you want? I just asked you, you know." He said, "Well, just tell me what you want." And he said, you have to make sure it's something that you can reach, make sure it's something you can do." And I told him, I said, "Look, at the time I only had 2 daughters, and that was it. I actually wasn't born yet. Campbell was 3 months old, and Billy Grace was 21 months old." And I told him, I said, "The only thing I want to do is be able to hold my kids again. If I can do that, everything else will happen, one way or another. I'll figure out how to feed myself. I'll figure out how to bathe myself and do all that kind of stuff." But, I was really scared that I would never be able to hold them again. So he teared up. He said, "That'll happen." So, and it did. A couple of days later, I went to the waiting room, and it happened. 12 days after my accident, I was sent home from the hospital when he said it was going to be 2 months. So I was a fighter, and that's, good things happen whenever you try.
I understand the first day you were home, you taught yourself how to drive.
I did.
Seriously. You are a fighter.
It took me a while, but I did.
And what about turkey hunting?
So I killed my first turkey a month after my accident. No prosthetics.
Wow.
From the very beginning, what was really extremely hard for me, and she does not get any credit, because every time somebody sees it's like, Jason went through the accident, Jason's got the bionic hands. It's always Jason, because that's what you see. Yeah. But you don't see what all happened at home, to help me succeed. And, Jenny had to help me do things, and my mom had to help me do things that I wish they never had to help me do. They had to give me a bath like I was a little kid again, and they had to help me do all that kind of stuff that you just never imagine your wife would ever have to do for you, or your mom would ever have to do for you again. And that was really probably the hardest thing for me, but I wanted to teach myself how to be where I could live on my own, kind of, and that's where I worked really extremely hard on. And then the bonuses was the hunting and the driving the truck and all that kind of stuff.
And we'll talk about the hunting today and an exercise you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you go hunting. Obviously, like I said in the first segment, God has given you a strong constitution, and from the sounds of it, genetically from your parents, your father and your mother.
Yep.
Your mother took care of you, and God has given you a faithful wife, and He's just showering blessings upon you, His unconditional love. And so, 4 years after the accident, from what I understand, you started sharing your story with others. And I watched one of the videos, and you said God has given you your life, or gave you your life after the accident as a testimony, and God wanted you to live. Mm-hmm. And that's huge. And it's in the mind. It's all in the mindset, and the way we think about things, and your situation and the way you handled it. There's a lot of ways you could have gone with it, and you did not give yourself, like your father said, any option, no quitting, keep moving forward. But that was, God's faithfulness in you. You tapped into it. You tapped into your powerhouse. And I want you to talk about how you share your stories with others, and you've gotten to do so many incredible, amazing things. Yep. That's just, blows your mind away when you watch your videos on your website. And you were in Hawaii 5-0, you were in an Apple commercial, you've been on all sorts of, national news shows and television shows, and you still maintain your humbleness and your gratefulness to God. So I just want you to talk about, where do you get to go speak, and how are you helping others?
So when I first got home, and we would go out to eat as a family or whatever, I would have different people walk up, pat me on the shoulder, and be like, "Man, I cannot believe you just fed yourself." And I sat there and thought about it. I was like, "Well, man, I've been feeding myself for a month now. That's pretty easy now." But it was amazing because it was all the time. And I'm still today, it's all the time. I'll hear somebody, and it really makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel like I've been successful. And, I know I told you earlier, I wanted to be the best prosthetic user in the world. And I don't know who decides I am or I'm not the best, and it doesn't matter. I feel like I'm the best, and that's what matters. It really what matters is what you feel on the inside.
Yes.
I feel like there's nothing that I cannot do except for change diapers. I can't change diapers or clean the house.
Maybe you don't want to, Jason.
But I have, and Jenny, at a young age like that, Jenny was like, I don't know what, 27 or 28. I had just turned 29, so, the easiest thing for her to have done is just say, I don't want this, I'm quitting, I'm done, and I'm going to go find somebody else that I don't have to deal with this. And she didn't, which is huge, especially nowadays, So anyway, I started sharing my story to a couple schools, and I tell people, I went to college, Murray State, and I got pretty decent grades, but I failed public speaking. And it's funny because now I have to do it a lot. So, and I'm used to it. I'm used to getting in front of people now. It doesn't bother me at all. It's a story. It's my story. It's something that happened to me, and I think it's very inspiring because of what God has done and the doors He's opened. People ask me all the time, don't you wish that March 1st, 2008 would have never happened? And to be honest with you, I think I'm happy that it did happen because my whole outlook of life is totally different. And I'm happy of who I am today. And if you're not happy with who you are, that's whenever you want to go back and have something different. And I'm completely satisfied with who I am and what I have going on. And it has nothing to do with the TV stuff. I have had opportunities like Hawaii Five-0. I did a Hookman episode, and that was
awesome.
An interesting phone call, but they needed somebody that had 2 bionic hands and somebody that lost both arms, and they Googled that, and my name popped up. And from there, I've been able to work with different prosthetic companies. Advanced Arm Dynamics, they make my arms that are very comfortable. And that's what you have to have. You got to be comfortable in order to use any device that you got on. I've been blessed with bionic hands and all that other stuff. So it's just been an interesting thing.
Jason, we can go on and on and on. I would suggest to people going to your website. What is that?
It's www.jasonkoger.com.
Because it's incredible, the things that are on there and just your story. And so I would suggest everyone go there. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Jason is on here, and we're going to talk about the exercise that he did out in the lobby. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. My guest today in the studio is Jason Koger, and he demonstrated the simple exercise that you can do anywhere. You can sit down, you can stand up, you can be in a meeting, you can be in a school setting, you could be in your car, you could be in a plane, you could be on the train, you could be watching your kid perform dance or sports. I mean, this is an exercise that you can do anywhere, okay? Before we get into the exercise, I do want to remind everyone out there that I'm a fitness instructor and a personal trainer at Owensboro Christian Church. Everything we do is faith-based. So our classes are a little different. We bring glory to God and we pray together, and we really lift up the name of Jesus in our classes, and they're hard. They're challenging. And Jason's wife, Jenny, is in my classes, and she's a doll. And she's a warrior out there because we're doing kettlebell, we're doing stability ball, we're doing all these balance things, and she's amazing at them. So I want to invite you, if you've not been to a fitness class or you're searching, come over and see me. Check me out on Facebook or on shapedbyfaith.com. The facility itself at Owensboro Christian Church is absolutely free for anyone. We have a walking track, we have ellipticals and weights and treadmills and all sorts of things. And I believe the age is 13. That's the youngest that you can come in actually by yourself and use all the equipment. The only thing that costs is the cost of our classes, and the first class is free, and then it's $4 after that, okay? So check us out. Check out my website. I've got the schedule. But let's get to the exercise, Jason. Okay, you did a very simple, basic exercise, and it was a basic seated calf raise, right? Mm-hmm. You're just sitting in a chair. And I just said, go ahead and lift up your heels and lower them. You did those You probably did 8 to 15 of those, just seated, with a strong core. You kept your core strong and your spine. That's real important, your posture and how you're sitting. So how did that feel to you, just doing something simple?
Yeah, I think it was very simple. It's something that you can do and not even really think about. Sometimes I'd do it anyway and didn't even know it was an exercise, you know, maybe because I was nervous. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was very simple and easy, and you know, you could sit there and nobody would even know you were even doing it.
That's right. You could do a lot of things with like a seated calf raise. Like if you wanted to put some ankle weights on, or sometimes with my students, we'll be seated on a stability ball and we'll bring them that way because there's more of a challenge there with your balance. But I'll have them take some weights and place them on the legs and put their hands on top of the weight so there's resistance. So when they're lifting up through the heel, they're pressing down into the legs. So that's another way to progress that. But Jason, I had him just simply stand up. I'm like, stand up and just lift and lower. He did it like a pro. And then I said balance on one leg. And what do you think about that, Jason?
That was a lot tougher.
That was a lot more challenging. I tell you, it is. And you just don't think about it. So I would suggest, and I do this in my senior classes, I'll have them hold on to something, like, and then lift and lower. Like if you've got a counter beside you or even the wall, just hold on to the wall and lift and lower. But do that like 8 to 15 times, switch legs. You're out in line at Koger's, Walmart, Target, wherever. It's just simple things that you can do while you're waiting as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It was very challenging, the one-legged.
That's right. So you're going to practice that, right?
I am. I'm going to practice that.
I appreciate you coming on, Jason. We're going to close out, but thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For more simple exercises, check out shapedbyfaith.com. Bye.